Hello. Hmm, I'm not sure I can hear people. Okay. I can't hear anybody talking right now. Uh-oh.
Okay, Ray, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you guys now. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Nice.
Yeah, we just have to swap a microphone around, but it seems like all better. Well, thank you so much for joining us virtually and visiting our little queer comic shop in Baltimore, Maryland.
Oh, hello, Baltimore.
Are very happy to have you so that we can talk about your fabulous book, Like Carries On. So Ray, would it be okay to start by asking you to tell us a little bit more about yourself and your journey into comics?
Yeah, sure. So I started comics a little over 10 years ago now with my first web comic called Dollhouse. Before that, I had gone to college for metalsmithing, so like completely different from what I do now. And um I did 2 years of like odd jobs. I couldn't really decide what to do. And then just like one day I was like, fuck it, I want to make a comic. So I started doing my web comic and I did about 400 pages of that and did that till like 2017-ish. And in the meantime, I had like made smaller side comics and just done a lot of writing on my own. And in 2018, I got asked by Webtoon to illustrate a comic for writer Paul Tobin, and that's how I started doing comics freelance. And we did Messenger for a couple years, and at Emerald City Comic Con a couple years ago is when I met Connor from Dark Horse, and they were like, "Hey, we'd really like to work with you. Like, do you have any pitches?" So I pitched them Like Carries On, and then I started making that, and have been working on a couple other books since then, working on I Felt Myself Slipping. I just finished that with Oni and working currently on Raise Hell for Comixology.
Fondly, you were like, oh, and then I did 400 pages of a webcomic. Like, that's not an enormous.
Right, I know, it's obscene. So, like, it's so funny too because I with Messenger, it was since it's Webtoon, it was really hard to determine how many, like, pages I had been doing of that. And so for the 2 years that I was doing that, I was like, "Oh, yeah, it's probably like 500, 600 pages." And then Rocket Ship Press was gonna publish it as a print volume, and they were like, "No, that was more like 1,000 pages that you did in 2 years." And I was just like, "Holy shit." No wonder I was exhausted for a long time.
That would do it. That's bananas.
Yeah, it was ridiculous. I was just like, "Oh my god." So, definitely don't wanna do 500 pages a year again because that was rough, but now I do, like, I don't know, 150 pages a year. I have a lot healthier work habits now.
You mentioned a little bit about the sort of pitch to Dark Horse, but can you share a little bit more about your inspiration behind this book and a little bit more about sort of how it came to be?
Yeah, it actually started off as a small pitch that I was gonna send to Image with completely different characters, and it was gonna be, like, a 50-page, like, one-off, but then, like, over the years and, like, sitting with the characters, I didn't care for the older ones anymore, so I had Leon and Cody from a completely different story that I had kinda hit a roadblock on, so I was like, "Let's reevaluate these characters and just put them in this universe." And I had always been drawn to making comics that are set in, like, real life places, so, like, for example, Dollhouse takes place in St. Louis, and I had just moved to Chicago when I started Like Carries On, so I had it take place in Chicago. So one of the important aspects for me with that was to like showcase some of my favorite places in Chicago and show like how the city's changed over time from when Cody was alive to when Leon is alive. And it's And another thing that just kind of is in all of my work is a lot of themes of like mental health and grief. Uh, Grief has been a really big one, especially with Light Carries On, obviously, because like Cody's dead. And it ended up being really cathartic too with Light Carries On because I had a really close friend of mine pass away from cancer like halfway through creating it. And so getting to write that like the meaningful closure with Cody and Leon at the end really brought like me some closure in my own life with it.
Do you feel like a particular character's voice was loudest for you when you were writing, or clearest?
Cody's for sure.
Yeah.
He was just a lot of fun to write to me and felt like most like with my own mannerisms and like how he talks and stuff. Um Leon was a little bit more challenging just cuz he's very dry and a little bit off-putting to other people, so it's kind of hard to like write in that sort of voice, but Cody was definitely fun to write.
Was Cody also the most fun to illustrate?
Yeah. Yeah. He was. Well, it was really fun too to like think about how because he's see-through, so it was like kind of fun to like think about how the surroundings around him would be perceived through him. So it was fun to like work in the background elements alongside him.
Yeah, one of the pieces of feedback we got from one of our group members who unfortunately couldn't come tonight was how often he found while he was reading it that he felt like he was walking alongside Cody and Leon. And yeah, so he wanted to make sure that we were relayed that we the compliments of
No, I
Wes.
appreciate that. I love that. That's really cool. It's so funny that he likes that because one of I this is really bad. I love reading Goodreads reviews for the bad reviews because sometimes they're really hilarious. And one of them was just like, these characters just walk around Chicago. What about the story? What's happening? It's just like it's about the journey. It's about the emotional journey. So I just think about that comment a lot and laugh.
It's fun to hear. I feel like each time, whether we ask or not, the creator mentions whether or not they read the Goodreads comments.
Right.
Most people do, it seems, which makes sense. But
Yeah, because the really good ones are like, "Wow, this is really meaningful. I'm really glad I read that." And like I've had enough feedback from people I care about who are like, "Yeah, you're a good writer," that I'm like, the bad ones, it's simply not for them. So I don't give them too much like thought.
that is a wonderfully healthy outlook, and
Yeah.
I'm glad that that's how it feels. Do other folks have things they'd like to ask Ray or share with Ray? And you are all witnesses that I shared Wes's feedback, so when he inevitably asks, you can tell.
It's also, on YouTube.
Oh, perfect. Wes can watch. There's video evidence.
The proof is here.
I had noticed that Cody dies when he's 27. Was it like intentional for him to be part of the 27 Club, or like was he inspired, or an amalgamation of any like real life musicians?
That was an extremely personal one for me to have him die at 27, just because at that age in my life, I had gotten out of a really abusive relationship, and it was like a huge turning point in my life where I got to finally do things for me and like start to experience who I was as a person after being like trapped in a really bad situation for a long time. So it was a bit cathartic to have him die at 27 and start this new chapter of his like quote unquote life and find meaning in it after the fact of him dying. So it was just kind of like a personal Easter egg, I guess. That nobody's ever asked that, so that's cool that you thought of that.
So blue is my favorite color, so I was just wondering what made you decide to do blue with the grayscale and then incorporate the kind of reddish, like sherbet color at the end for that final chapter, the last few pages.
Red is my favorite color, so I had to have red somewhere in like the photo scenes and then that last chapter. But making it blue was kind of a challenge for myself too, just because I didn't typically work with blue tones that often in my like monochrome work. So part of it was to challenge myself. Another part of it was, since it takes place in Chicago, a huge thing with the architecture in Chicago is mirroring the river and the lakes. And so I wanted to incorporate that, like the blue of the water being kind of reflected off the city buildings, just kind of being an homage to that. And just because I think that blue looked really nice too.
They go to a planetarium, and you're mentioning that's one of, like, you emulated Chicago in this book. Some of your favorite places, was that one of yours? Because I think that was a very big.
Oh yeah, I love the planetarium. Even like my metalsmithing work back in college was very like celestial inspired, and I'm an astrology girly, so I love celestial stuff, stars. I love the planetarium. It's really, really cool. And for like a brief time in my life, I thought I might go into like astrophysics and do something in that field, and that did not pan out for very long just because I'm shit at math. So I did not pursue a career in physics. But it's still something that I'm really interested in, and definitely love the planetarium. It's really cool.
I have a question. Go ahead. What inspired you to include the hanky code? It was just like a brief message, but like I know what it is, but I don't think about it in my everyday life.
Yeah.
Was it Archie Bon Giovanni?
Yeah, honestly, I thought of it because of Archie. Archie's a friend of mine, so like I know that they like had their short comics about it, but I wanted to have something that was very prominent in queer culture in like the 70s and 80s to be part of Cody's story when he was alive. So I had that as kind of a shorthand to like show that, yeah, these characters are queer, so I don't have to like have Cody be like, yeah, hi, I'm gay or anything like that in the text, because that's really trite. So I thought that would be a really easy way to like, one, show that these characters are queer, and two, touch on Kellen's like cavalierness with his infidelity, and just have like a lot of visual clues with that. And I personally thought it was funny that the orange hanky was blue. And so some people were like, well, why is it blue? Why did you color it blue if it's supposed to be orange? I'm like, it's a joke. It's supposed to be a joke.
I thought I went temporary colorblind.
I love the color scheme, and it's funny.
So what I'm hearing is when Archie comes back to the shop on their next book tour, you should come out too, because
Oh my
they kicked off their Mimosa book tour here at the shop. They were one of our first visitors after we opened, and we love Archie and did Mimosa for one of our earlier book clubs. So,
Oh,
you
that
know,
was so
if you're ever looking for an excuse, we'd love to have you out in Baltimore.
Yes. Oh my
Yeah.
God, that would be so fun. I have always wanted to visit Baltimore. I have a good friend out there, and it's just I haven't had the excuse to go out yet. So I would happily come for a book tour excuse.
I mean, we do have SPX out here, so
true.
Oh yeah, true. I technically have been in Baltimore for SPX. It's just I was only at SPX and nowhere else. So it felt weird to say I was in Baltimore. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair. In that hotel in the middle of nowhere. It's Baltimore adjacent.
Yeah.
A scene that stuck out to me was when Cody is trying on different clothes in Leon's body before he goes out,
Mhm.
and insinuates that Leon has all of this stuff in his closet but never wears it. The crop top.
Yes.
And I'm just curious, like, when in Leon's life do you imagine him wearing those things? Because they seem very out of character. And
Definitely when he was younger and before the depression really hit him. I definitely feel like some of them were like before his time in the military. He was probably a lot more like outgoing and outspoken, and like he was like 21 then. He was at the club. So his clothing back then would have reflected that. And then afterwards, he definitely started caring a lot less about how he was dressed and how he presented himself, because he was just focused on trying to stay alive and keep his mental health in check.
but I love that he held on to the clothes still.
Yeah.
Can you repeat that again? It cut out.
Oh, I love that he held on to the clothes still, though.
Kinda.
Yeah.
I feel like that's kind of like a broke person thing too, because like I have so many clothes that like I don't wear anymore, but I'm like, I can't get rid of them because they're still good clothes technically, and I don't know when I'm gonna next get clothes, so it's kind of that mentality too.
I feel like Leon has a hard time letting go of a lot of things, though, which is sort of like an interesting part of his character.
Yeah. Yeah, and I guess suppose I didn't even think about that in that like that kind of ties to his mom's antique shop too, just that inability to let go of these old things.
I thought one of the most powerful moments reading was the scene where Cody, they're at the record store and Cody looks at the wall of photos and essentially sees the life that his friends lived and the life that he didn't get to live. And I was just wondering, because I think what made it also so powerful is that it is this like quiet moment by himself and there aren't any words. Like you just get to be in this moment with him. And I was just wondering, as someone who both writes and draws, when you're creating a story like that, how do you figure out when it's good to have dialogue to express something, and when do you know, like, how do you feel around to figure out when to like hold back and just allow a moment to exist?
Man, that's hard because I don't know if I really have a method for it so much as I just kind of go on vibes when I'm writing. For that part in particular, I didn't want any like visual dialogue just because, like you said, that was a really impactful moment, and I felt like any dialogue would take away from it. And it's not like Cody had to voice his feelings because he was having that moment for himself. He didn't need to share it with Leon or anybody else. Yeah, I really just kind of go on vibes for that. A lot of people describe my work as like really quiet and melancholic, but like in like bringing meaning to mundane moments. So that's something I do try to focus on when I'm writing. Is that's something people say I'm good at. So I'm like, all right, I'll just like keep leaning into that since it's my strong suit.
I think we should talk a little bit about the ending, if that's okay.
Everyone read it, right? There's no spoilers happening.
I was sad at the end. Because I really loved these characters and I thought their chemistry was great, and it felt like them being together was like kind of holding them back from like growing forward past the traumas that they had, which I found upsetting. Although we had a little conversation beforehand, and there were some different perspectives which I hadn't really considered too. But I don't know. I sort of had the hope that they would be able to continue to kind of learn and grow, but maybe Leon would be able to open up more and be able to have more friends and stuff like that. And you know, it's really sad that Cody was dead, and so I don't know. Part of me was hoping that he was going to be alive again.
That's so fair. I thought about it, but I don't know. I thought it was charming too that he was still dead. It just kind of was a nice ghost story that way. And I knew if I like part of it too that I didn't bring Cody back to life, I just got too in my head about it. Like how would he come back though? And like trying to get too realistic with it. And I just really needed to just like shut off that part of my brain and just like let it happen.
Yeah, we had a hot debate beforehand around whether there was at least one strong vote for but magic. Bringing it back, and then many around like it ended that way for a reason. Like it felt like a very fulfilling ending in its own right, and the sort of inherent queerness in that ending. But I think I personally would love to hear more about sort of how you decided to end it the way you did, right? Because you could have done any number of things, and there certainly were some maybe fan service options around like, but then there was magic and now they kiss and hold hands and everybody's happy and gay and it's wonderful. But I would love to hear more about sort of your thoughts when creating it.
Part of why I did want to keep Cody dead was that I wanted that to kind of leave that open-ended thought that he's dead and at some point he will move on, and Leon will have to, make friends with real living people eventually. And that Cody is kind of his like bridge from living that solitary life to opening up with other people. And so once he's ready to like let Cody move on, then he can move on himself too and form connections with other people. Mainly like even with like his ex or his mom and stuff like that, since they do have their moments in the comic that would not have happened without Cody. So there's just like the threads of that could happen. And I did want it to have kind of like a bittersweet, happier ending, just because, like so many queer stories can end like back, not so much anymore, but like in the past have ended with tragedy and whatnot. So it's just like I am okay with it being bittersweet, so it's not like saccharine like sweet, but still like an optimistic ending. Originally I was gonna just have it end with them kissing at the end and not have that final chapter, but the final chapter I ended up writing after my friend had passed, and so like that really not like inspired. It was the last chapter was like really helpful for me to like kind of remember that even though I had lost my friend, like they're still alive in my heart. And so that last chapter was very much an homage to me still caring about them and thinking about them.
Your take certainly makes me feel better about the ending, so thank you.
Yeah.
Much more hopeful. And I promised to say this before too, but as soon as I finished reading this, I went to my local 7-Eleven to get a Slurpee.
Yes.
All the machines were broken, so it was just liquid, and I walked away in frustration. But I, enjoyed the book all the same.
About your Slurpee mishap, I love the Slurpee was a huge thing, like narratively, just because my best friend Marie Anger, they're also a comic creator. Anytime we'd be having a rough day, I'd just be like, let's go get a Slurpee or whatever. And literally just like how they do in the book, they just go get Slurpees together. And me and Marie don't live in the same city anymore. They're in St. Louis still, and I'm in Chicago. But since 7-Eleven delivers now, anytime we're having a bad day, I'm just like, check outside your door, and there'll be a Slurpee at their door for them. So we still have our little Slurpee sharing.
What are your flavors that you and your friend?
What was that first half? Cut out.
What are your flavors, you and your friend?
Oh,
Your Slurpee flavors.
They do blue. I'm red and Coke.
Okay.
I love cherry Coke.
Mhm.
We
I'm
always
not as
start
much as Slurpee.
we always start our like intro book club all settling in by asking like themed questions.
Mhm.
And so tonight our questions were having everybody go around and share their favorite Slurpee flavor, and then also their favorite punk rock if they had one.
Oh, I love that.
So yes, I would say Coke and cherry separately and together were the most popular options tonight. So
Those are the right choices. Though I do, one of the fun things about like looking up Slurpees from like the 70s and stuff, because like they did exist and the machines really haven't changed since then. But like back then they had like insane flavors. Like they had like one that was just called Frog and it was just green. And so they'd have like these crazy flavors, and I really wish they would bring that back because like some of them were so charming.
I had a question about Leon's eyes and how they change. And I'm not sure if that's something that I admit. Like in the beginning, his eyes are black, and then after like Cody possesses him or whatever for the first time, then they're two different colors. So is that like a physical change, or is that supposed to like represent him being able to like see Cody or like see the ghosts or something like that?
I interpreted it like as writing it that it was like a physical change due to Cody possessing him, and that like if Cody like moved on, his eyes would go back to normal, or maybe they wouldn't actually. That would be kind of cute if it like still lingered. I had like written it with intention of it being like a physical change, and it was just something that if it was commented on by other people, it happened off screen, or it just didn't happen, just because I was like, that's not the focus of this story, so I'm just not even gonna bring it up.
If the eye stayed even after Cody went, you'd say that the eye carries on?
Oh, that would be funny.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You're out. I'll leave everyone. It's been real.
Well, we asked your favorite Slurpee flavor. What is your favorite punk rock group, if you have one?
Probably Laura Jane Grace currently. She was the front woman for Against Me, and Against Me has been a band that's been like really influential in my life since I was a teenager, and especially when she came out as trans, that was like a huge point for me in my life where I was just like, I'm allowed to like just change my gender. Like I had not really considered that as something that I could do for myself. So seeing her do that was really, really impactful for me. So she'll always have a soft spot in my heart for that.
Sorry, I've got to take off, but thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for coming.
Ray, can I ask what you're most proud of from this book?
Gosh, the whole thing. I am just really proud of it in general. Like just the fact that I was able to make a succinct story that like was long, because I really wanted to make a long book, but not like 400 pages long. Because with Dollhouse, that was, like I said, it was like 400 pages that I had done, and that was like just a third of the story that I had in mind for it. And I was like, I can't do that again. It's too long-winded, and it will just like take up all of my life to do. So I wanted to balance that like idea of having a long story that's one and done, contained in itself, that is like satisfying from beginning to end, and like has an open enough ending that people can interpret it how they wanted to, but not so open that it strayed too far from how I intended it to be interpreted.
Do you have a favorite scene?
My favorite scene. I really like whenever they go to Millennium Park and look at the bean and the like Wilton Sears Tower and the spitting statues, just because those are some of my favorite spots. And also just like them walking around Chicago in general, especially Andersonville. Andersonville is the neighborhood that I live in, so there were definitely some very extremely close to home places like Svea and Simons. Those are just a block from where I live, so it was fun to get a like shout out to those places, and just kind of like the cheekiness that Cody has the whole time with it.
I don't really have a question, just more positive feedback that I really appreciate how, just growing up queer and having to read, like, I only was allowed to have, like, there were only 10 books in the LGBTQ section of my library growing up. And then all of them had, or watching videos on like Russian YouTube with like my ear pressed against the speaker. But, I really appreciate how this was a really refreshing take on how nobody had to come out. Mm-hmm. Everybody just accepted it. Even like, Cody mentioning he couldn't hold his ex-boyfriend's hand out in public, that they had that conversation about how positive it is. And it was just really nice how it just wasn't an issue. So thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you. That's definitely like a huge goal in all of my stories. The one that I just finished, I Felt Myself Slipping. It's also a queer book, and it takes place in the 90s. And so like I don't like make a big deal about any of the queerness in it just because it's just part of the characters' lives. And I had a sensitivity reader for something unrelated to queerness, and one of her comments was, she was just like, these characters are very cavalier about their queerness, and it wouldn't be like that in the 90s. And I'm just like, I don't care. Then she was like, you should consider getting a queer sensitivity reader. I'm like, no, I'm the queer sensitivity reader. Like, I don't want homophobia in my all ages book. Like, no, we're not doing that. I lived through the 90s homophobia. I don't need it in my stories.
Good for you. Yeah, thank you.
Luckily, my editor had my back. She was like, no, you are absolutely right. You don't have to listen to that feedback.
I love how the ghost was totally fine, but the homophobia was the thing that was not plausible.
Right. I was just like, okay, whatever.
Do you
guys like pick the setting based where you are at the time? Like, did you write the St. Louis story when you were in St. Louis and this when you were in Chicago?
It happened to be like that, yeah. I do usually pick cities that are important to me. So like the fact that I lived in St. Louis and then in Chicago, that definitely was why those ones were written that way. For I Felt Myself Slipping, it takes place in Stephen, Illinois, which is just a ripoff of Decatur, Illinois, because that's where I was born and raised as a kid. So that book, if you haven't seen any of the like previews for it, it's about two gymnasts who befriend each other, and through communicating with each other, they overcome like anxiety and grief with each other through the barrier that one of them is hard of hearing and the other one is hearing. So they have to navigate those communication barriers with each other while navigating their own mental health struggles. But since they are gymnasts, that I wanted it to take place in Decatur because I was a gymnast for about 10 years of my life when I lived in Decatur. So it just felt most natural to have it take place there. And because I love the Midwest, and there's not enough stories in the Midwest, you know, like in like comics and like big stories, it's like New York or it's California, and I'm like, I want to do the Midwest. I love the Midwest.
That comes off.
Yeah.
That comes off. You can tell.
Good. Yes, Midwest on top. I love it.
So I was wondering the chapter pages. I really thought it was cool about how it's illustrated over photographs.
Mhm.
Did you take those, or did you like find them? I just like
Some
really
of
like
them I
the last
took.
one. It's just like very realistic. I don't know.
Some of them I did take, some, but I would say the most of them were some of them I did take. I'd say like half of them I took, half of them I didn't. But they were Creative Commons. Like I was legally allowed to use them. Like, that was a big deal since it was being published. But I had drawn those actually while I was writing it because I was like so afraid that. Sorry, what was that? I didn't mean to interrupt you.
I said I wasn't insinuating anything. I promise. I
No,
was
no,
just
no.
curious.
Okay, that was something that, like, whenever it came time to publish it, my editor was just like, "Oh my god, do you have the rights to use these? Oh my god!" And I was just like, "Yeah, I do. I like made sure I picked like ones that I could use when I did this." Especially because like one of them like is a photo of Afghanistan. I don't know if that one made it into the book or not. I was like, I didn't go over there and take that picture. But I ended up drawing those while I was writing because I was like, I'm not drawing at all during these 3 months of writing. What if I forget how to draw? So I like forced myself to like draw something every week so that way I wouldn't get rusty. So I was like really glad I did because it ended up being really good like back matter for the book.
For obviously it's a reference to the like gallery show at the end, but while I was reading, I was just like, what's the point? I don't quite get it.
Oh.
And then I was like, oh, now I get it.
Yes, exactly.
Do you have other folks have questions or comments?
Not a question,
Yeah,
just
please.
another compliment. You were talking about a lot of the theme of the book is also mental health, and I really appreciate that they both gave each other space to again grieve. Like when they went to the therapist, like Cody's like, I want to give you your privacy and give you your space. I'll just sit out here, and I thought that was just like a sweet moment, and I like seeing that.
No, thank you. Yeah, that was mostly like reflection off of me and Marie's relationship with each other. We both help each other a lot with mental health stuff, and like having the appropriate space is just like an important thing for me.
Have you been reading any comics or graphic novels lately that you've been enjoying?
Oh my gosh, I actually haven't read any graphic novels in a while. I got a Kindle recently, so I've been reading a lot of prose. Right now I'm reading Between Two Fires, which is like a medieval horror fantasy. It's been really, really good. Takes place during like the bubonic plague, so it's really gruesome. Gosh, what was the last book I guess I do read a lot. I read a lot of manga too. I just binged Dungeon Meshi entirely because when the anime came out, I was like so infatuated with it. I was like, I need to read all of this immediately, and I binged it in 2 days.
Well, you certainly don't have to, but do you have any questions for us?
What other books do you guys have on your book club list?
Oh boy. We are, let's see, what are we, 13, 14 months into
No, this
the
is
book?
the 12th month.
12 months
Oh,
in.
that's so cool.
So, yay, we did it. So
And you
we-
started
As we all start pulling out our story graph
so let's
apps
see.
to
So
remember.
we did Mimosa from Archie.
Mhm.
We did Other Ever Afters from Mel Gilman.
Ooh.
Grand Slam Romance.
Sins of the Black
Um,
Flamingo.
Oh, look
Swipe
at you.
through.
Yeah, nice.
I've been-
Carrie's organized. I love this.
But I've only been a few
Um,
Girl
we
Juice.
did Girl Juice from Benji Nate.
Oh, Girl Juice is so good. I love Girl Juice.
We did Hills of Estrella Roja from Ashley Robin Franklin. Yeah. We
North
did-
Ranger.
Oh yeah, North
North
Ranger
So good, yeah.
from
I'm blanking on their
Ray
name.
to Sarah.
yeah.
Rex.
Yes. So we did
Cosmo
So
yeah.
Brooms from Jasmine Walls and Teo Duvall.
Oh,
did-
I love Jasmine. I just got to see her this weekend at ECCC. She's a good friend of mine. Me, Jasmine, and Marie, like every week we try to have a Zoom call together to have hot cocoa. And we just drink cocoa on our lunch break.
Deeply precious, and I love it. We did both volumes of Cosmonites by Hannah Templar.
Ooh, yeah.
We did Princess and the Grilled Cheese Sandwich.
Oh, I love that.
Chromatic Fantasy, from HA
That was last month.
was last month. And then Light Carries On. I love these these are fabulous
They're like
games.
Yeah, it's on my,
Yeah.
it's on my dining room table.
That's a great list to be included on.
I
Did we
feel
say
like
Sins of the Black Flamingo?
we didn't.
Oh,
we
yeah.
did Sins of the Black Flamingo from
Andrew Wheeler.
Andrew Wheeler and
Project Not.
Project Knot, which was really fun. And is that all of them?
I think that's all of them.
That felt like a lot. Was that 12? That felt like
That's a lot.
So yes, that is what we have done so far.
That is really, really cool. I love that. That's so cool that you guys have been doing this for a year too. I love it.
Yeah, it's been really fun. Every month, it's amazing to be able to take advantage of the breadth of queer graphic novels that keep getting published.
Oh, yeah.
There's so many amazing stories, and so it's fun. Every once in a while, people will be like, "Oh, so it's like a queer genre book club," and we're like, "Well, queer's not a genre." So we So we've done fantasy and romance and mystery, and so it's fun to just there's everything. So yes, it's great.
I know. There's
That's
your guys, Sheriff Miranda.
That's true. That's a good
Here's
one. Yeah.
not a genre.
I feel like fill in the blank is not a genre is probably a sentence we say 30 times a day in a comic book store.
Oh my gosh, yeah, I get that.
Novels are not a genre. We're like,
I used to work in a comic shop, so like I get it. There's so many people come in there like, comics aren't for me. I don't like comics. And I'm like, you just haven't found the story you like. Like,
Yeah.
comics are for everyone.
Yep, my comment to that is usually challenge accepted. So
I mean, our favorite
Same.
was, I don't like comics, I only read nonfiction.
yeah, which was great. I was like, perfect. Come to our nonfiction section.
We have
They're actually not mutually exclusive concepts at all.
Right.
And the guy was like, oh, and I was like, I know you thought that you were like gonna one up us, like a ha ha. I was like, that didn't. Yeah, he still like buy any books, but I was like, cool. It's like there's only a couple like really famous ones,
Yeah,
Persepolis, Marge.
Fun
People
Home.
are Fun Home. Yeah, there's just a few.
Yeah.
People are bananas. But yes, queer is not a genre is a great. I would wear that as a shirt.
Yeah,
That's a good
Like
idea.
a shirt or a pin, it'd be perfect.
Yeah, it'd be great. Yeah. Do you have any other questions for us?
I can't think of anything. I'm sorry. If I do, I'll send you an Instagram message.
Perfect. Yeah, it is not a job interview. You did not have to prepare any questions.
What was that?
It wasn't a job interview. You did not have to
Okay.
ask. Yeah. I
I was
forget.
gonna say because the other question I had was like, what is y'all's favorite Slurpees? But I'm glad that y'all discussed that already.
did. Yes, that felt very pertinent to the story.
It's important. The Slurpees are important.
I kind of want to try every flavor once. now.
Yeah, we should
Just
try
once.
every flavor. Yeah.
I used to do
Yeah.
that with sodas at the AM PM.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Mm.
that was. I didn't do the Slurpee, but we would definitely get those big like gulp cups,
Yeah.
and we would just go down the row and fill it up. Mhm.
Yeah. I forget when we started asking. We didn't always ask creators if they had questions for us, but there was a month where we were like, okay, bye. And they were like, oh, but are we allowed to ask you questions? And I was like, oh. So we just like,
That was actually
that.
people from.
well, I think it was
Grand
it.
Slam-
Yeah.
How did we forget
No,
Grand
we
Slam
said Grand Slam Romance.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
don't worry. Yeah, Grand Slam. That's right. When we did Grand Slam Romance, they were extremely precious, and they were on tour for Grand Slam Romance at the time, and so they zoomed in from their hotel room in Scotland.
Oh, dang.
But their Wi-Fi wasn't working, so they did it on LTE on their phone. So they were like they were like for like an hour. But yeah, we went to wrap up, and they were like, "Oh, but we have questions for you." And I was like, "Oh, light bulb! We should ask everybody." So, yes, well, it's nice to yes.
Is there anything that you are working on that you can talk about that's coming out soon?
In
Oh,
addition
yeah.
to-
I talked about I felt myself slipping a couple times. The other one that I'm working on is Raise Hell. It's going to be on Comixology maybe end of the year next year. I'm not sure. Comixology is a hot mess right now, but
Truly, but that also means that Dark Horse will publish it probably in
yes, I did
Yeah.
get confirmation literally 2 days ago that it is in my contract. Dark Horse will be publishing a physical book of it. I'm like, oh, thank God. So there's that at least. But Raise Hell is one that I'm illustrating, and my friend Jordan Alseca is writing, and it's about an alternate reality to our universe where the Satanic Panic did happen and opened up a portal to hell. But it was incredibly mundane, and imps and demons are as common as like raccoons and mice. And it focuses on 3 teenagers in the mid 2000s who buy a bootleg demon summoning kit from a kiosk at a mall to summon their own familiar, and they end up with the most annoying little imp ever tethered to their souls for the rest of eternity.
That sounds absolutely outstanding.
That's
I am extremely
It's
excited.
so much fun. Jordan is a hilarious writer, and he has a lot of heart and a lot of charm to his writing, and I love the teenagers that we've made with this. It's been a nice change of pace to have something that's just like pure fun to draw. So it's very bright, very colorful. I'm super excited for it. I'm like halfway done with it now. So
That's amazing. I'm excited.
oh yes, good.
Any final thoughts, questions, comments? Either way. No. Yeah. Thank you so much. It's
Yeah. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it is not lost on us how amazing it is that we get to have a queer book club where we have multiple new queer graphic novels to read and choose from every month.
Right. That's great.
And just it's amazing, and it's exciting, and it makes our queer hearts happy. And so thank you for this fabulous book that I know is a tough but meaningful and cathartic read for many.
Yeah.
So thank you for that. And yeah, thank you for your time, for being here, and for talking to us.
Yeah. Thank you guys so much for having me. I love talking about myself and talking with people.
We appreciate you. Well, we're going to either get to Zoom with you again soon, maybe for another future book club, since you have so many amazing books coming out,
Yes.
or to get you out here to Baltimore.
Yeah, if I'm in, because I apply for SPX every year, but that lottery hates me. So one of these years, I'll be back and I'll come visit.
Yeah, we'll get you out here, or you could have Oni bring you out for Baltimore Comic Con.
God, I wish. I'll talk to them. I'll harass them.
Yeah, I was like, we know enough people at Oni. We can get
Dark Horse.
and Dark Horse, but they like us better at Oni.
That's true.
Between Torma, we could between
Spencer,
Torma,
Mar-
Spencer, Hunter, we could strong arm some people. Yeah,
Do that. Yeah.
yeah,
We
we
can
can
do
make
that with Oni. I've been really nice to Oni. I was a little mean to Dark Horse sometimes when they'd be late on stuff. So I'm a troublesome creator.
Okay, Oni it is.
Yeah.
We'll work on it. Amazing. Thank you so much, Ray. We're really excited for all your upcoming projects, and thank you for Light Carries On.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye bye, guys.